Lots happening in finance with this speech yesterday by the Treasurer Jim Chalmers talking about superannuation. Mads, you are going to explain it all to us.
I am, because he wants to make some changes. He's proposed some pretty big changes to our superannuation industry. It's getting a lot of pushback, particularly from the opposition and from some other areas of the super industry as well. Let's walk you through them, because superannuation in Australia is a huge industry. There is $3.3 trillion in our superannuation funds at the moment. That's a lot of money, and that pile of money is helped along by its compulsory nature. Employers have to contribute to it, and money you put into super gets tax breaks compared with regular income. Now, those tax breaks are currently worth $42 billion a year, and Jim Chalmers says that by 2050, the value of those tax breaks will be bigger than what is paid out annually for aged pensions, and that, of course, was never the intention when superannuation was brought in. So there are a couple of obvious issues with our super system. Currently, women and lower paid workers end up with less on average when they retire, and some people end up with much more than they reasonably need. There are 11,000 Australians with more than $5 million each in those concessionally taxed funds. Some have hundreds of millions put away, and it's estimated that those tax breaks equal $1.5 billion lost from the federal government. And there are some who argue that the trillions of dollars sitting in those super funds should be deployed to areas of need, like in building affordable housing. We know that's such an issue. There's a split in views about whether super should only be locked up for retirement too. We'll have more on that in a moment. Jim Chalmers wants to legislate what's called a purpose for super to address some of these issues.
Some of the most disastrous policy proposals we've seen in recent years, like allowing those billions to be withdrawn from balances during the pandemic, have come about in part because our predecessors were navigating the super landscape without a compass.
Now, he has proposed a definition with some key phrases. He says it should deliver income. That's aimed at stopping super becoming a tax haven or somewhere for rich people to do estate planning for their kids. He says it should deliver a dignified retirement. That's enough to deliver a higher quality of living standard. Read that means making it fairer for women and fixing underpayments. It should preserve savings. That means it should be locked up for retirement. Now, this one is the really contentious one for the opposition, who argue that people should be able to access super to buy a home or for emergencies, sometimes to pay off student debt as well. And the Treasurer wants it to be equitable and sustainable. This is the big picture one, aimed at encouraging using funds in super for nation-building projects like affordable housing and climate change. That's contentious because currently super funds are mandated to deliver the best return for their members, and things like affordable housing typically don't return as good as, say, something an investment in the market, in fixed income, or in some of those big infrastructure projects that so many super funds are actually putting their money into. So what he's proposing here are some really pretty radical changes. He's asked for feedback by the end of March. The super industry broadly is mostly behind these, but there are some real points of contention, as I was saying, particularly about that early release, which so many people relied on during the pandemic. Of course, 3 million Australians took out some of their money early, but that has implications for them in retirement. So big questions about what's super for. Is it for retirement only, or should we be able to access it because it is your money?